Now here's what should be a key lesson for any Canadian classroom. Honour our veterans. They put their life on the line for our way of life, but some criminals, God knows how, will sink to any depth for an easy buck. Sun News reporter Josh Snernick reports.
A picture is worth 1,000 words, but when they belong to a World War II British Army medic, you stay for the whole story.
This patient came in. We took one look at him and he had about 8 bullet holes in his stomach.
From Dunkirk to Burma, Gerald Farrow saved that man's life and the lives of many others. Today,
Gerald, what year were we married?
what is certainly a lifetime later, he lives with wife Patricia on Vancouver Island. He'll always be a soldier.
We worked hard and we did very successful. I said, who wants medals?
Medals, 4 of them, including the Burma Star and the Defense Medal. This humble soldier earned but never applied for. That is, until his family had their way.
The family felt that it was an important thing for him to have his medals. He never had them, and then they could be in the family afterward.
They got Britain to cast and ship them. They even got the lieutenant governor to present them.
This is a piece of history. A man in his 90s now receiving credit for what he did probably in his teens and maybe even early 20s.
A week after his 93rd birthday, Gerald would finally get the recognition his family knew he deserved. Until Gerald took those medals out while buying groceries. After showing them off to his friend, the medals went back into Gerald's car. But what didn't happen was locking the door. Not driving much anymore, it would be 10 days before Gerald realized they weren't where he left them.
Some people will steal anything that's not locked down.
The medals aren't worth much on their own.
So $60 each, so we're talking about
240 bucks.
Yeah,
But that's not the point.
Awful, just absolutely awful.
It's hard to say what a person's thinking.
Just shows a disrespect, not just for that individual, but for the service that any veteran has given to their country.
The man who doesn't put much stock in awards does in his loved one's efforts. He's made it his mission to replace or find the medals. Problem is, Britain wants him to cough up for a new set.
It's a principle. See, if I sit down and they set the show on and he pins medals onto me, he's pinning medals I've paid for in cash.
And there's little chance of catching the crook.
Unfortunately, it is a bit like a needle in a haystack.
It's not right, is it?
It's not right. But there you are.
This is a military store called the Command Post.
But wait, those medals we showed you see right there?
Okay.
They are genuine originals, same as Gerald's.
I'll take them home tonight. We'll probably drop them off in the morning. And
After our interview, the owner gave them to Gerald free of charge.
if he needs another set of medals, we'll give him the medals.
A gift to everyone.
Why is it so important to you to even deal with this, to even get medals back?
Because my family wants it.
I'm Joshua Skernick.
And they've done a lot of work. I'm not going to let their work go to nothing. I'll do what I can to do it.
And this is a Sun News special report.
When the government says to someone, hey, you've got to get help, you've got to ask for help, that's all well and fine. It's the time frame between the time that you ask for help and the time that you actually get help.
Now that story you saw, I mean, it's very beautiful, very moving, and I just love it. Gerald, what year were we married? It sounded like my mum. It was love. Veterans are veterans. Second World War, First War, Korea. And today, these people are there. They really are on the front line, I mean, literally and metaphorically. But sometimes we neglect, even reject. Brian Harding, founder Send Up the Count, joins us from Yukon now, which is why it is by Skype. Brian, welcome to you. Now, tell us about this organization, please.
Okay, I describe it more as kind of an initiative or a movement than an organization. This started out just a bit over a week ago. As I expect most of your viewers are aware by now, we had 4 very highly publicized recent suicides. There have been several other attempted suicides that we're aware of that, did not necessarily get news coverage. Now, what we're basically doing is we're just a couple of veterans who came up with an idea that's it's exceedingly simple. It's just simply, vets are probably most likely to talk to the guys they already know. And as we come into the holiday season where people are at highest risk of suicide, this is basically just getting a message out like, call your buddies, call the guys who you deployed with, who you served on operations with, or just who you served militarily, or, if you're a family member or a friend of a veteran and you're worried about them, get in touch, see how they're doing.
Yeah.
It's really a simple peer-to-peer idea just to try to catch guys who are falling through the cracks and aren't getting the sort of help that's available to them.
Well, as with most great ideas, it does sound very simple, but I think people may know this, that Christmas is a time, because of the emotion, the compassion, and the love and the family essence of it, people who have not all of that or lack some of that tend to feel very vulnerable. And if you've served in the military, surrounded by a community, and suddenly you're not part of that community directly anymore, and you maybe think about your comrades who are no longer here for Christmas, they lost their lives, it becomes very poignant at that particular time, doesn't it?
I believe so. As you correctly described the military as a community, but it's a family too. I mean, when a kid moves out of the house, their parents don't stop being their parents. You might leave the uniform behind in the closet, when you're finished with your service or when injuries force you out, but you remain a part of the family. And particularly for those who might not have other people to be checking up on them this season, we figure this is just a great, easy way for us to look after the people who were our brothers and sisters in, some of the hardest times of our lives.
Yeah. What sort of responses are you getting so far?
It's been absolutely incredible. We've had literally thousands of soldiers across the country are getting in touch with their peers. I'm hearing back from people who I haven't heard from in years saying, hey, I got a call from someone and then I found out it was because of this thing that you started. We have at least one self-reported account of a guy who was going to kill himself. He had a gun in his hand and he was ready to do it. And he'd become aware of our, we have a Facebook group called Send Up the Count where there's hundreds of people sharing their own stories about their struggles with post-traumatic stress disorder. And he started reading some of these and realized he wasn't alone, put the gun down, called up, got help. I really can't think of a better validation than that.
No, neither can I. That's extraordinary, and it doesn't surprise me. By the way, for the uninitiated, explain why it's called Send Up the Count.
Yeah. Sending up the count is something that soldiers on a patrol on foot will do. Now, if you imagine you're the leader of 20 or 30 guys out in the field, out on a combat mission, and you're walking in single file, you don't necessarily know what's going on behind you, but you periodically need to know that all your guys are there. So a leader would order, send up the count, and the guy right at the very back of the line would tap the next guy on the shoulder and say 1. He'd tap the next guy on the shoulder and say 2, and it goes all the way up till it gets to the front. And when it does get to the front, the leader should get the exact same number he started with. So it just sort of symbolically fits as a way of making sure that we have everybody that we started with, that they're still there, and that they're okay.
It's wonderful, and it's so appropriate that at Christmas this has come about. It's not a sign of weakness that people feel so lonely and isolated. It's fully understandable. And you know what's tragic? For years, actually, we haven't done very much about it. We've assumed because they're tough and they're soldiers, they'll be okay. And that's not a valid interpretation of their lives.
It's not. PTSD, operational stress injuries, any sort of anxiety or depression, these are not signs of weakness. We've seen some of the strongest people this country has to offer suffering from this. If you're suffering from this, you are not alone. If you know somebody who is suffering from this, it's okay to ask them about it. They might open up, they might not. You're not going to make it worse by asking.
Yeah.
It's always right to ask somebody, are you thinking of hurting yourself? Are you thinking of killing yourself if you fear that might be a threat?
Yeah. No, it's actually the courageous people who will answer in the affirmative and tell the truth. Sergeant Harding, you're doing terrific work. Thank you so very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Take care.